First couple times.
Right. Not too
Moved
much.
the leg all, but
What's
still.
going on?
Oh, I
That
have,
was pretty good, but he retired.
I'm not contagious.
When I ran out,
They're
when
very
Medicare
sensitive.
stopped paying, that was
It's
his
interesting.
last day.
Right.
He was pretty good.
Okay, I'd like to open up the planning commission meeting for City of Cosmopolis, February 12th, 2024. I'd like to start going around the table for all the new committee members. I'll start. I'm Ken Cummings.
Stephanie Johannesson.
Judy Lord.
Janelle Martin.
Darren King.
Bill Newman?
Mike Brown. I'm Darren Rains, I'm the city administrator, I'm the Mayor Springer.
Thank you all.
Julie Pope, finance director.
Okay, got 3 items on the agenda this evening. We'll start with item number A, waterfront use zone review. Tonight is just basically comments to get a continued plan along the way for the year. Each of these items will be addressed that way.
And so there's 3 items tonight. All of these, I think, have been emailed to most of you, but we'll make sure again after tonight because there's 234 pages, so we didn't want to try to print them all, but they'll be online with the agenda as well. And these are all things that we've been working on. Some haven't been touched since 2019, prior to COVID. One of them is the waterfront use zone. The zoning there is complete, but there's been a couple projects that have been brought up over the last few years that have been in a real gray area, if they fit the zoning or not. And so we wanted to bring that to the table to see if you want to try to look at those projects versus what the zoning is, mainly to see if the zoning should be tightened up, or do you want to look at modifying it? I mean, that would be entirely up to you folks. One of the things that came up and that was very contentious was the Hope Project, and it kind of met the definition of a town home, and then it kind of didn't. So us as staff, we were trying to say, well, this definition says this one says no, but it said in the zoning that townhomes or condominiums are allowed. And so we wanted to, while there's nothing on the table, nothing proposed, we wanted to bring it to the table and see what everybody's thoughts were, if you wanted to look into that some more. And it doesn't have to be decided tonight by all means, but just to give you a chance to think about it.
Can you say that question again with the question about townhomes? Is that what you were just saying?
Yes, and so we had a proposal, I think it was early in 2023, late 22. It was in a, kind of like a halfway home.
Oh, okay.
It was and it's somewhat considered, it's just basically a transitional housing unit. And it met how they were gonna build it because it was a business, the definition of a town home, but it kind of did not the way they were gonna operate it. So it kind of put us into a situation where if it the project had not have been pulled from the table, then it could have given us, some trouble on how to deal with that. So we are looking for, I guess, guidance to see what the planning commission thinks. And I know that the council at the time, thankfully it didn't get to that point, but they were nervous about, what to do with it as well. So that zoning will be emailed to you, and then you can, take a look at it and see what you think. And that zone starts on F Street from the Highway 101 here out to the river, down to the Cosmopolis city line, right next to Northwest Collision. So that's the area in question. And so that's where we're seeing a little bit of development. And there's, over the years, there's been people came by before Weyerhaeuser sold everything with all sorts of ideas what to do there. And it was clear that those things could not be done. But we want to see what you have to think about that.
Well, maybe in our descriptors that go along with that ordinance, we should define what a townhouse is. Typically, it's a 2-story, nothing more. We do have a height restriction down there of
Yes.
30 or 40.
40, yeah.
And that, what they were proposing was really an apartment building.
Yeah, and they were trying, their architect was trying to push it as a townhome because it was two-story, but the townhomes are also individual units that are sold,
Mhm.
where this was not going to be. And so,
If we get our tightest descriptors for that, then I think all questions will be answered.
it would really help.
Right
And-
now, we can do hotels, motels,
Mhm.
and that's fine. What if somebody comes in with a 3-story hotel, motel?
Well, and I think, you know, our fire department doesn't have the capacity to go above 40 feet. That was what the recommendation of the chief was at the time. That's how we set 40 feet. We don't have a ladder truck, and that would trigger mutual aid to where, you know, we would probably have Aberdeen over, but then again, you're relying on somebody else. And so we may wanna stick with that 40 feet. That's up to you folks.
The other area in there is retail wholesale. Wholesale usually isn't a retail trade.
Mhm.
And to meet the zoning by the national standards, it has to be a person-to-person kind of thing.
So yeah, we can get some of those descriptors, and if you guys wanna bring in anything too, when, next time we meet, we can look at what you wanna add to the current zoning and make a modification, just to basically clean it up.
On the 40-foot, can we ask the fire chief what his feelings are on that?
Yeah, we could.
And
ask
get a
again.
comment from him?
Won't some of that also be geological though, depending on core sampling,
Oh, yeah.
especially along the riverbank there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's, you know, some of the concern, you know, with the project that they've been, you know, where they cleared up next to J Street. You know, they've talked about several ideas, but that right there, depending on the height, is it gonna trigger a structural issue where they're gonna have to have piling? Then it's not that's cost prohibitive then.
Right.
But I know here we went between 15 to 20 feet where we were hitting hard pan,
Oh,
but that's
bad.
just a little bit closer. Now up at Mill Creek Dam, we were going down over 100 feet where, you know, before we were hitting something solid.
The last clarifier we put in over there was 187 feet.
So that's probably pretty typical of what we would see there. So yeah, we could ask him, absolutely.
I'm just more concerned about handling things locally here and not having an issue versus mutual aid. You know, 40 feet, that's pretty tall. And
Yeah,
I don't know if we have the ability to do that. I'd like to get confirmation from the fire chief.
And I believe Aberdeen, Holcomb, Cosmopolis, Fire District 2 are all on automatic response now for
Yeah, I was
fire.
gonna say, no matter what, if
Yeah.
a building's like 30 feet and burning, they're probably.
And they just
gonna
did that
send
about
Aberdeen
2 months
anyway.
ago.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll talk to him. Any more questions or comments on that one, or?
Well, there's
What's there?
ways creative developers can get around that.
Well, that's what we're
So
trying
that
to,
instead of putting pylons down, you put your ground floor as concrete and that's parking. And then the structure, the 2 stories would be above it,
Still have to be engineered,
yeah?
and that'd be back on the engineer for the soil.
But is it up to us to say certain projects must be engineered, or who's that up to?
the building official, Bill Sedor, would want to see a geotechnical report and an engineer's, they would want an engineer to look at that. If it's gonna be like 3-story, which is technically 2, like you're saying, because the bottom is open, it's not all weight over the whole thing. But that is something we would have him look at, and then an architect typically would have a structural engineer review it as well.
Since the deal with when Steam Donkey was looking to build there,
Uh-huh.
have there been any other inquiries about any of that property?
They still have it, and their goal, they'd like to do something at some point. It's just, right now, it's cost prohibitive, it's,
Right.
I don't think it's out of the picture.
And
But
I think, didn't they have a geotech done on that?
They had some samples done, because they used the same architect that we have on this building here. And so they had confirmed that what they did was clean.
Was.
Yeah, yeah, and that was, but that would also be a property that would be eligible for the next phase, of the community brownfield grant. That Cosmopolis is a member of that coalition with Aberdeen, Hope Rim, Westport, Helma, and one of the other East County cities. So this will be the third round of that testing. And this kind of leads into the next item, item B, which is the 2020 Cosmopolis Revitalization Study and Brownfield Area-Wide Plan. When the three cities received that grant from council governments, we went to each city and said, okay, do you have any properties that you have that anybody would want to have tested for a phase 1 ESA assessment? Well, we had no property owners here that were willing to step up and say, yeah, take a look at my property. Even though it's guaranteed there's no enforcement action required, so folks were kind of nervous that, okay, if there is something, is my property gonna be devalued? Or if I get a clear phase 1 that says everything is clear, does that give me, more value that the bank is gonna say, okay, you're good to go with some development down the road? So we, at that time, I think we had one site looked at. So we had talked about what can we do with the share of money for Cosmopolis. So they went through and inventoried all the commercial properties between 1st and 2nd Street from one end of town to the other. They looked at some of the school property up there at the end of DeWitt Drive, because we knew that at the time was maybe the school was probably looking to sell it at that time, or to rezone it, which happened. And so we wanted to inventory these properties and see what the needs are on the revitalization side of that for Cosmopolis. And as you read through this, we'll make sure you get a copy. It keeps coming back to housing is a huge need in Grays Harbor for different types, from high end to entry level. It talks about 4 core areas of where we want to try to potentially do some development. One was around this block, they call it the city campus in a way, development that would, be attractive for people driving by. To me, that doesn't do a lot for other business development, but it just cleans the city up. The other 2 sites were the lot next to between Maxi Mini Mart and our pump station, and then on the other side where the Steam Donkey was looking at doing something there at some time. So with this next round of funding, there could be testing done to where we could go in, if the property owner says, yeah, come test my property at no liability to them, we can go in and have that looked at for a phase 1 ESA assessment. If it comes back clear, they could actually apply to have a free, these tests are free to them, a phase 2 done. And some banks are wanting phase 2 for big projects now. We had to do that when the fire hall was built, 27 years ago, 28. So the banks, when they're investing on these properties, they want to make sure they're not investing where there was potential brownfield. Well, these areas along here, along the waterfront, because of their location, some of them were considered a high probability of a brownfield, just because many, many years ago, all the lumber mills and things like that were in this area. They don't know for a fact, but they say there's a probability just because of its proximity to, the old Grays Harbor Commercial Company and the pulp mill. So this would be a high candidate for these assessments to come in, be done for free, to then clear them off and say, no, they are clean, or no, there is some contamination. Here's the cleanup plan, which would then get them eligible for potential cleanup dollars, which helps get things moving along as well. So, did I answer your question on the clean donkey part? So it's considered clean, but if they choose, they wanna have another certification done from EPA that says, we guarantee we went into this further exploration, we could do that for them. But that would have to be something that they would say, hey, city, can you do this for us under this grant? The other part of that revitalization study is, I'd like to have everybody take a look at that. Some of the things that were talked about in that initially were trying to get development along the waterfront. Well, when this plan was completed in late 2019 and officially adopted in 2020, Weyerhaeuser owned all the waterfront property. And so they finally sold all of that. And we've seen a little bit of development, and there's been interest from others, to do some things. So it would be nice if everybody could take a look at that, and it's not really an action plan, but it just gives us recommendations and goals to look at. And to see if there are some small things that we could do, like the city entrance signs that you recommended, cleaning those up a bit and maybe do some sprucing that up, a little bit of landscaping and things. Some of it, it talked about trying to, beautify going through First Street a bit. Well, we've had the volunteers, the pedal pushers and other folks come through and clean this up really nice. And so there are some things associated with that I would like, everybody could look at that and give us some recommendations that, like, we would like to see this go forward, as a priority. There's a lot of ideas in there. It's a huge document. But I think it would be good coming from a citizen-based group rather than just from staff saying, well, we think we should pick this one or do that one, or even from the council. We would like to have that representation.
Realistically, on something like that, on such a huge document with so many things, how many of these items are they gonna let the city turn around and do? I mean, if we pick, I guess what my point coming back is, if we pick one or we pick three, the chances of being able to get these funds and to be able to do what's there, or can we pick 50? I realize I'm exaggerating there quite a bit, but where do you see that coming about?
Well, I think it really depends on what type of funding source you're applying to.
Okay. Say
Say if it's like a street project, well, they're suggesting on G Street, C Street, I think G Street, I Street, or J Street rather, maybe doing some streetscape work like this out here with more plantings and things. It would look very nice, but it would be a huge liability on us right now for maintenance. So that would be something, it shows in this plan that would be useful for the city applying for grants. You may be able to get some money to get those put in, but the money to maintain, right now would be pretty tough. But those are certainly things we want you to look at and give us your input. If you think we feel this is a priority, then we'll pursue it. If not, then we can hold off a bit. And there's just
Would that cover the parcels that go upriver that way, that have recently changed hands?
it goes through the Cosmo property. And so it talks about Cosmo, because when we were talking about this at the time, that was prior to their last shutdown, just prior to COVID.
But they don't own the riverfront ones anymore.
The Gores Group sold that to Richard Bassett at the mill site, and no, not where the truck shop and that stuff is.
No,
They-
I'm going upriver more. In November, it transferred from Cosmo to a holding company.
Yes,
So that,
Almost
those are,
400 acres.
yeah, so we
were
didn't,
they designated brownfield?
no, that was not included in this at that time. They only went
But is
to
that
the
in the
mill
city?
site.
I don't think
I
that's
don't
in
know
the
where the
city.
city-county line is there.
You know, where, if you go down Blue Slough,
Right,
there's a stake right there that you drive along,
Yeah.
and that's for the city of Cosmopolis
so these
property.
only affect the parcels that were on the riverfront itself. And it's a new transaction.
Okay, the city line runs just about through, through part of the truck shop right now.
And through part of the bio ponds, and it takes a jog and goes to the river, and those 3 parcels that are listed all look to be county, but when you go to the assessor's page and tax sift them, they're listed under Causey.
I think that's where the mailing goes,
And it,
that's all that is.
yeah, it might be. Or even the school district, they could get listed as the school district.
Yeah, so I know the project didn't go that far. And we had talked to Cosmo at the time about going over there and doing some samples, and they were not interested, which I think it could be,
They didn't want to hear it.
no. But that may be they may have a different change of thought here. You know, once these funds are released, we know we're awarded for the next round of funds. I think it's another 600,000, 600 or 800,000. And it's all controlled and ran through Grace Harbor Council of Governments. We have no management of it whatsoever. We're just part of a group. And that would be spread amongst all the members of that coalition. But that would be a prime site to look at, because that would, if they find something, then it goes to phase 2, they find something, then they come up with a cleanup plan, and it sets that property up for federal dollars for cleanup. And so that could be pretty important here in the
You're talking about
future.
the parcels that just transferred,
No, this would be the mill site, yeah,
the mill site itself.
yes.
Including the empty field between the sewage treatment plant and the mini mart. Cause you know, there's some ground contamination in that particular parcel.
Yeah, that's one that they figure is a high probability. But the ones that they're saying high probability have not been tested. They're just because of their proximity and what is around them, more than likely. But it doesn't mean they can't be cleaned up and qualify for those funds. So those are the areas they wanted us to focus on, the testing, and they're coming up with a remediation plan that then property owners could apply for those funds to get them cleaned up.
Any other questions on that? If there's no other questions, we'll move on to item C.
Okay, our last item is our draft comprehensive parks plan, which was completed 2019, just about ready to bring to the planning commission and council in early 2020, and something happened that year, can't remember what it was. Oh, yeah, COVID. So with that and all the other things over the last few years, it just kind of got put on hold. We've had since then some things, you know, happened, positive things. The Highland Park project is now done. We've also got some other grant funding for Mill Creek Park for the maintenance grant that'll start in July. And you know, just some of the needs of the city in general have changed, you know, since then. So we would like to bring it back, go through it again, just review all those chapters and make the edits, and then send it off to Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office for final approval. It would then, once they approve it, it would, and we're done with it, it would go to the city council for adoption. The reason we need this plan, it helps us qualify for state Recreation Conservation Office grant funds. Thankfully, over the last, year and a half, they've came out with a few grant sources that have not required that plan to be in place. And in all the years I've been here, they've never done that. So we're very fortunate to get the $100,000 from Mill Creek Park. And then we're getting ready to apply for one here in the next couple of weeks. That could go up to 1.2 million. And so we're very fortunate as part of these going forward though, if something happens at the pulp mill, you know, great. If not, no matter what, we're still gonna try to get the property for the boat launch. And I know the old management over here at Cosmo was in favor of donating that to the city. The Gores Group, the parent company, was not, because they knew at some point they were gonna try to sell. So they didn't wanna give up any assets. But if we get that, Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office has said they would fund that in a heartbeat to develop that. Washington Fish and Wildlife has said they would like to partner, you know, in that as well, because it's a prime site for boating, for kayaking, for, you know, a lot of different things right there, maybe a restroom even. That would, you know, all that design would have to be done. We had some conceptual, just really rough conceptual drawings done about 10 years ago of what that could look like from the engineer that did the Mill Creek Dam. HDR is the company name. And so it could be a wonderful project, but there's just a lot of hurdles to get through before then. And so we would want that in this plan, you know, approved. So when we went to the state and said, hey, we need this grant funding, can you help us out? Well, then in a approved plan, well, yeah, here it is. And so it's also listed in the revitalization plan. So having that in a couple different plans would really carry a lot of weight for grant funding. And
Sorry.
go ahead.
And then it makes sense to do a brownfield on that lot between the mini mart and the sewage treatment plant and incorporate that piece of land into the boat launch.
Yes, yes. I think that would provide much better access.
Parking.
Yes. And even if the mill gets up and running, and I know I keep saying a lot of things revolve around that, but they kind of do, they're gonna have to redo that whole effluent line anyway, which that would have been one of the things that could have caused some of the contamination. We don't know that it did, but it, you know, highly probable. But that lot would be just, you know, perfect for that, to create a real nice parking area, a place for people coming up and down 101 to pull in. And
So many people, you know, you look in this, I mean, it's year round, but you look in the summer and you just see motorhomes and trailers just parked right there because they came through, whichever way, and they wanna walk their dog, or they wanna go to the bathroom and just get out and stretch. I always thought it would be some, even, you know, some sort of, I don't know how we get it, but little visitor center or something
like
there.
like a kiosk or something, just a place to stop and
Right,
maybe sit and eat, or stop and walk up and down, you know, the sidewalks with,
yeah.
you know, with the art facilities we've got, and, you know, hopefully eventually some restaurants, more restaurants.
Get them to stop, that's the first part.
Yeah.
Spike strips.
But that, spike strips, I got some of those.
I bet you do.
Right at the passing line.
Even like you know, like I always think, like it used to be at Montesano at like Monte Square there, you know, you used to go in there and you used to see all the big fish that were caught, you know, they just post them all over, and all the deer and the elk, and,
Yeah.
you know, start something like that, and then you get people stopping to see, you know, we catch a lot of fish out here.
Oh, yeah.
You know, something like that where people wanna come post their stuff, and, you know, it becomes an attraction, and, yeah, we do need a couple businesses we have some, but a couple more, you know, to
Sure.
get them to make the stuff worth it, but.
So, this agenda, it will be emailed to you with, you know, with all the attachments. And there's a lot to look through, and so you won't get through it right away. I think the most important, the top priority for us, time-wise, would be the draft comprehensive parks plan, just to become eligible for the future grant funds that will be coming out later this spring. The waterfront use zone, I think that could be done concurrently, because it's just, you know, tightening up those definitions and And then as we review that, you know, if anything comes to mind that you'd like to see changed, or now's the time to consider that. You know, I think it's worked out well. Not a lot has been done in that zone since it was created, how many years ago? 20+ years, probably?
I don't know, time flies.
Yeah, so,
More than 12.
yeah.
On the park grants that you see coming before you, are there any that are specific to the community garden that we have up there? I'm asking because I know a young lady who would like to take over that part of the park. She's got the energy, she does not have the money.
Yeah, I think they probably have things, I don't know if it'd be Washington State RCO, but there are grants out there for community gardens and pea patches, as they call them.
Yeah.
And then Mayor has looked at a few things where,
Well, she was gonna
Can I
dig the,
speak?
she was gonna dig the whole thing up herself, and I said, hey, hold off, there's volunteers, you
Yeah.
don't have to do that by yourself.
So we have a great group of volunteers. I think when we did the Highland Park project, we got up to 30+. Kim Gurman.
Gurna.
Thank you, have taken on Olympic Trails. She already, with no money from the city, is improving that park. They just finished a grant to the Community Foundation for some equipment up there, so at no cost to the city. One of the things that we've been looking at for quite some time is a community garden. So we did get funding for AARP when we did the Highland Park project, AARP, ARP, for the 50+ senior. And one of the things that they really, they look at is how to subsidize food, but also how to involve the community. And so I just received an email, it's due at the end of February, but I received an email about a week or so ago that as a recipient of that grant, we are encouraged to apply for that grant again. I have thought about doing it, but I can't because I had to step down as a board member for Friends of Highland Park, but having someone take that on, so if that person is interested, if she's interested in applying for that grant, that would be great. I think one of the things when you're thinking about it, it needs to be ADA accessible. You need to be looking at inclusivity for that 50+. So raised beds, looking at something that's sustainable. So when you say plastic, there's lots of plastics out there that are not toxic, and that's kind of what we were thinking if we were going to move in that direction, so it's sustainable and would last and low maintenance. Because you have to have low maintenance and another group of volunteers. So combining people who are interested and going for that, I'd be happy to assist as a volunteer. So I'll be happy to assist.
Do you have somebody that could write the grant for her?
I have one that I did, just, you know, when I did that, it would just be revising it. I think a lot of the information is there. You really would have to have, one of the things I've found with grants when I've been the most successful, the aerial shot, your plan, how it meets, they want a lot. And then there's a 2-year follow-up reporting on that particular grant. So, there we go.
I will pass it along.
Okay.
and if any of you don't have access to the electronic version, we can get you a printed copy. We're trying not to with 234 pages.
It is on the city's website.
Okay.
It's
yeah.
already been uploaded to the city's website, so if you wanna go take a look, I'm thinking that may be the problem with, like, maybe your email, Ken. The file is so large because it's 200 and some odd
Yeah, that's
pages
what's
that maybe
We
that's
could
the
do a
hiccup
share
is.
too.
But
I can
I
share it.
get others, you know, I get the credit unions that are, 200 pages, so. But it's my email, I have a problem with it, and I don't know what it is.
Or if you have a library card, you can print 100 pages a week.
200.
200?
No, if it's online, that's all I need, I can just, that's what I do.
That'll get it.
Just go to the
Everything,
city's website.
yeah, I don't print out any
But you
of
can't bring your own
the
paper.
credit union.
I was trying to get a flyer for the school for our art fest, and I wanted bright yellow, not just white. They wouldn't let us do it.
No.
I have yellow for you. I have so much stuff.
Anything else then?
What's our timeline?
I would say,
2 weeks, 4 weeks?
well, I think what we're gonna have to do, we'll take a look at the parks plan. There's a lot of editing that we can do, but if you can look through it and make notes, you know, if anything you see that typos or anything that you know is outdated, dates, the Highland project, Mill Creek Park, now the park at the top of the hill across from the cemetery, any of those things you see, you know, that, you know, shoot us some notes or an email or something, then we can incorporate that, where we could bring you back a draft, probably early April.
When does the city have to have theirs in? June, July?
I will have to double check that, but I think it's May,
Okay.
but I will double check. But I think if, they have grants that go out in the spring that are due applications, and but also some in the fall. They have quite a few different categories. I just really want to try to get it done by,
Well, why don't we take a look at the parks plan and see if we can get all our comments in by March 15th to the city? And then they can redraft it, and then we can review it and see if everything's right to move it on.
Yeah.
That work for everybody? And then as far as the, you know, revitalization and waterfront youth, we can just continue along with those?
that's gonna be ongoing. That's a living document that I think, you know, there'll be edits to as we go. The big thing with that too is gonna be when the next round of funds are released. We know they're approved, but it's tied up in one of the federal spending bills, and the last I had talked to, that might be a good question for Vicky Cummings in the meeting Thursday,
Oh, okay,
or I could reach out to her either way, or,
okay, do you want me, or would you like
yeah,
to?
I'll reach out to her and find out, yeah. But then I'll copy you on that as well.
Okay,
so.
thank you.
But yeah, so the parks plan, work on that, the waterfront use, you know, we'll get some definitions. If you see anything you like that you think would fit, shoot them our way, and we'll bring this document back to you printed with the strikeouts and stuff, because that's not a lot of pages. I think that was like 2, maybe 3 pages, so.
The parks plan shouldn't be that far off.
No, I wouldn't think so. It was in a final draft form, it just needed some formatting cleaned up at that time. But I think if you look at all the people that were involved with it back then, there's one council member, and I think there's 3 and Judy. So there's 4 of you, so majority there, Chuck in.
Any other questions? No other questions? I close the meeting for this evening.
Oh, yes, good question. We typically meet on the first Monday of every month at 6 p.m. Now, if that doesn't work, you know, for somebody, we can move those, adjust them, but as long as we can kind of set that going forward.
Are we going to get in the habit of having a meeting on the first Monday of every month?
As long as there is something that's worth having a meeting that isn't taking just 3 minutes out of everybody's time. If it's something important, documents have to be signed, X's have to be done, we can have a meeting. My point is that to bring all of us together to come down and discuss one item, that doesn't matter if you get it done this month, the following month, or 6 months. I don't believe in doing that. So if anybody's got any comments on that, they can speak their piece also.
Just post it by caveat.
Okay. But I just, you know, we used to have meetings every month when I first started, and you'd come down here and it would last, God, that was back when Schumacher was chairman. They'd last 3 or 4 minutes. And then you go home. And that happened all the time, and when I became chairman, I asked if there was any reason to be doing this, and as long as there's nothing pertinent, I don't see any reason to have a meeting. If somebody else feels different, speak it.
So then will we, like, as we get closer, will there be an email sent out or something saying, do we have anything for it? Yeah, so, okay,
And we'll get it out 2 weeks in
Right.
advance.
okay.
For sure.
Yes.
So we would meet March 4th. And then we talked about March 15th, you just threw out
I
that.
know, I just
that-
threw a date out, I wasn't aware of that.
So March 4th would be the first Monday.
Stepping on my.
No, that's okay.
But I still think if we meet, say if we met March 4th, that'll be the time for us to get together, and then we'll still have 11 days to forward it, if we need to forward it, right? Because we have to decide before we.
I don't, the parks, comprehensive parks plan, from my memory of doing that, the draft that's there, I don't see a lot that's gonna have to be changed along the way. Do you remember, Judy? I think once we see it, I truthfully think it'll go through it and pick out, some highlights. If we all went through it before March
We did it
1st.
to meet some criteria
Yeah.
at the time.
And we'll contact RCO again just to make sure their criteria hasn't changed. I know they're kind of evolving up there as well. But they're coming out with a lot more programs too, which has been helpful for cities like us. Like this parks maintenance grant, they've never had that in all my years. I've been here 36 years, and that's the first true just maintenance grant, which we're gonna clean up the restroom, redo the tennis courts, just work on a lot of things just specifically in that park and get it cleaned up nice again.
Good. Would anybody have an objection to going through the parks plan and meeting back here on March 4th? And then that gives us time to address that and then turn in our copies, just come in and turn them in on the 15th.
I agree.
Is that better?
I think we need to be ahead of the game on that parks plan.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm sorry, when you were talking about maintenance, that's not talking about like personnel, it's talking about just different projects, maintenance.
Different projects, but they will actually pay their labor to work on that specific part on, there was like 6 specific items, like redoing the restrooms, working on cleaning up some of the fencing, re-graveling the trails, cutting the brush.
It's a big project.
Yeah, so they'll pay for that and our equipment costs for that. But
And
they, go ahead.
I just wanna ask, I do see somebody, driving around in a Causey truck, City of Causey, is that someone who gets paid for
Yes,
like
we've
cleaning
got-
up things?
Yeah, there's 3 guys, there's 2
Okay.
trucks that look the same.
Okay,
The only difference you'll see is the color of the toolbox, and I think the wheels might be different colors, but
yeah,
yeah, so they're working mostly right now, water, sewer, stormwater, street. But we have the cemetery, parks and Magrinkle Park, but because of our general fund just being in dire straits, because of the mill being down, they're doing very, very little there. And so
in the parks.
in the parks,
Mhm.
and then the cemetery, the only thing they're doing there is the services. We're contracting the mowing of that because it's quite a bit cheaper than our labor to do that. And then same with, First Street and Second Street, the planners. That's something that at some point we wanna get back in-house, but it's so much cheaper than what we can do it for. And that's unfortunately, the general fund competes with, fire, police, and then city hall, and the emergency services are they're a higher priority. That's,
Sure,
it's a struggle for us to
Yeah,
try to bridge the gap.
He's saying we're broke.
Yeah. Yeah. Good question, so.
Thank you.
Yes.
yes. Okay, so March 4th, 6 o'clock.
So moved.
Okay, any other comments?
I've got one off topic.
Shoot.
With the grace of Darren and the city, there will be an art fest in Causey in July. And it's what started out as a teeny weeny idea for the art kids at the art center, just to do the sidewalk one. I thought, we're going through that, why don't we make it bigger? And I've got a planner doing it because I can't cover it all. So we've got 2 dates in front of us, and it's open to adult artists also.
Nice.
And already I've got people saying, well, let me know what it is.
Nice.
So, and the kids
Nice.
are really excited. And it's a good thing for the kids because they can get the feel of what an art fair is. So if they want to be professional artists or semi, it's a lot of hauling and carting and setting up and taking down. But I've got some young people that are not too socially adaptable, and they're going to do it.
Wow.
I said, you don't have to talk to them, just sit there and draw. Answer questions only if you're comfortable. And one boy finally said, I'll do it. So,
Nice.
What date did you say that was? Or do you have a
one
date?
of two. It's by lottery.
Oh, okay, all right.
No, I have to wait for somebody's other decision that dictates when. And we'll go from the street that's here to the 2 blocks. So this block and our block.
Just
And
one
they're
side of the
hoping-
street?
And they're hoping it's when we're on
Just one
vacation.
side?
Yeah, just
so they can
because of the
use our
safety
Your
issues.
parking
I
lot.
don't
We're gonna
want
be on
people-
vacation.
I wanted
for
to
3
do both
weeks at
sides
some
and
point.
Right,
I'm
right.
asking for trouble. You know, somebody gets hit by a car trying to cross this street, you can't direct them all down to where the crossing is.
And we can help with, getting cones, barricades.
I do
signage.
want East
Yeah.
Street, but I don't know if I want it to the alley or all the way to Second.
Okay.
Don't mess with the guy behind the restaurant. It's
Or the
not
guy
worth
behind
it.
me.
Or the guy, but yeah, you just take it
I'm
to the
gonna have
alley.
Heath talk to them.
Well, even if you take it to the alley, you're dealing with Andy.
Well, we can do a little,
Jog around his parking spot.
and be
or
in
something.
front of them.
He doesn't own the street.
Are we looking at doing that yearly, or is it just this one?
I'll see
year?
how it goes.
Judy, I think it's very exciting.
Yeah, it
I
is.
would like
Applaud
it to
you for
get
doing it.
bigger.
Yes.
I mean, I'll have little boys, selling bracelets to pay for their art. Well, one family paid for all of their classes by doing a bake sale at the Maxi
Mhm.
a year ago.
No,
They said there was a house there for
specific to
that.
that part. Yeah. Oh, no, not that I've seen yet.
Okay.
And we can, I talked to, Dave Palmer last week, I think it was, cause he was asking when the citywide cleanup was, or the, garage sales rather. And they wanted to have the food truck out, or the food wagon. So I told him about your event, and he said, he might contact you or Jim to see.
You know what I got from my husband? We don't do that anymore. And I wanted to say,
Talk to Dave.
Or Bob
I don't wanna
Smith,
get in
yes.
trouble again.
I'm looking for a food,
I'm not,
I'm looking for not a $12 burger,
yeah,
but I'd like to see a food truck.
you bet,
And a Brass Hub is going to be there.
Yeah.
With their pastries and their coffee. I'm gonna talk to Kathy, but she'll get the walk-bys a little bit.
There
maybe
was some
talk to
really
the
good-
Bennett's too,
Yeah.
the Bennett's have one, I think.
Yes,
John and Stephanie Bennett, I think over in Aberdeen, don't they?
you already, you talked to them, right?
No, I
Finch
didn't
and-
because I looked at their menu
Oh,
and they look gorgeous, but I don't think it would be, I shouldn't make the decision for them. I think it's too expensive for the kind of trade an Art Fest brings out. I could be very wrong.
I think people might, if it's good
People might
food, some
pay
people
for
will
it,
pay for
right.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I buy their burgers. They're
Yeah.
worth it.
people are into food trucks.
Yeah.
But we
And you
gotta
know-
have something for kids to eat. The
Mhm.
hot dog guy is booked all summer. I didn't get that one in time. I'm, got a lead on a taco truck, so that would satisfy
What hot
The younger
dog guy did you call?
The Seabrook
Smitty?
guy, yeah,
Smitty's.
yeah, he goes out to Seabrook a lot,
Oh.
yeah.
There's Dog Masters.
Yeah.
How do I reach them?
I can
Okay.
get you, one of them is a city council member, Mr. Skinner.
Yeah.
Okay,
He's always.
just so I have something affordable for those who can't buy the good stuff.
They did our, Causey school reunion last summer, Dog Masters,
Okay.
very reasonable.
Didn't the Festival in the Park have some food trucks too? did Cheryl, would she be a contact for those?
Yes, you can contact Cheryl. She's the one who did all the food and everything at the festival.
Yeah,
the
for
park.
ice cream, I'm sure I can get Rachel Johnson out with her card.
And I think I might have 3 vendors for you that are interested too.
And the art kids will be doing Southern sweet tea and lemonade. So I've got beverages covered.
Sounded better all the time.
Yeah.
It would be great. to
And the
build on
shyest
that.
kids are helping
Coming
with
every
this
year.
stuff, so.
I can get you bring up, well, it's 11 by 17 is biggest I can print out, but like an aerial, you know, if you wanna just kind of draw out where you want, you know, things closed off and stuff. Just kind of a planning,
It would just be East Street
okay.
somewhere where I don't have
Well, we
to
can talk to the neighbors.
interact with those 2 guys.
That's too bad.
We could talk to them maybe and see if we can make that.
It's just,
Cause it's just for a day.
there's been a trailer parked on East Street forever, before and after we had the ordinance about trailers. He has not moved that thing.
Okay.
But isn't that commercial zone?
Call Mr. Steedore.
That shouldn't make any difference
shouldn't
when we
make any
have that.
difference.
That
We'll take care of that.
Where's
Yeah,
that,
we know
Judith?
that.
On East
He's
Street?
on it.
honey,
Yeah,
Between first and second, right?
That'd be
Yeah.
a good
That
job for you
trailer,
when you
that's what
retire
you're
over
talking
there.
about?
I would just
Right
like,
across from
I would like
No,
it
no.
to be vehicle, parked vehicle clear on that day for 8 hours,
Sure.
you know? And I'm too shy and too afraid to get knocked out if I talk to those 2 guys.
Mike isn't. Send Mike.
Send Mike, okay.
I've had words with the other one before, yes.
Well, maybe I should take yours and you take mine.
That works, cause I'm on good terms with your neighbor,
Oh, really?
yes.
What type of trailer is it?
A box trailer, small one, white.
Does it have taps, license, everything on it? Do you know?
I wasn't on patrol. Don't know. It's got a license on it. But it, I mean, it'd be just like him to put his big logging truck right there, because he knows we're doing an event. He's been that contentious.
That's that.
Anything else?
I want to thank all of you. I'm new at this, and that's why I wanted to be here. I'm excited to see this committee working together. Lots of changes, so it's great. Thank you.
Can I ask who, I mean, I'm new. Who else is new? I don't know. Okay. So everyone else has served on it before?
I'm considered new, but I never missed a meeting.
Okay, you were here.
I resigned and
new.
then they were short and she talked me back into it.
Yeah, you need to come back on.
One,
Your knee healed up.
my knee healed.
Question away.
Yep, yeah.
What?
You had a question?
Oh, no, that was
That
the
was the
question. I was
question.
curious
Oh.
who was new.
Oh, okay.
That was my
I think
question.
it's just me and you that
Okay.
are new.
I'm
so.
Okay.
12 years on this now.
Bills.
How long have you been on it? We did this
Too
about
long.
two years ago, they looked us up.
Too long.
And Ken and I both about the same time, within the
Within
year,
a
I
couple
think.
months, I think,
Yeah.
It's like 20 years, 25 years.
something like that.
And I have a question. On appointments, I was trying to give you as much information as I sent the information out to Darren and Ken about how long your appointment lasts. And I was like, oh, they look, because Judith, like, am I off of it? And I thought, no, you're on to like whatever date I gave you. So
I
how
don't know.
long are the appointments?
I think we have to
have
look at
terms.
the code, there's
I
the
believe they're
terms.
6-year terms.
Six.
Yeah.
Okay,
When I first started,
That
cause
makes
I wanna
sense.
say I just
It's
re-upped
set by
for my
ordinance.
third
okay.
You
6-year
can look in the
term.
code.
Oh, 6 years.
Yes.
They just call and say, show up.
When was Vicky mayor? Was she appointed?
9 years ago,
Yeah,
she was finishing up.
Vicky appointed me and then Frank forgot completely about it and
So we go back to Fritz.
No one's ever asked me.
But then you would be
It's been on it.
reappointed, that
Correct.
starts your term, yeah.
It doesn't start it over,
That-
you
that's
fulfill
the way it's always been.
the remaining portion of the
Well,
term.
I don't know, you've been on as long as I have, well,
Were you here for the subdivisions on the hill? Or Ken was.
No,
Yeah, he had to be.
So John Schumacher was our
Schumacher was, yeah, okay.
Okay, but
You
he
were-
left and we
That
did,
was a long
And
time.
Julie was
An
over
actual
there.
copy
For
of
the
these
subdivisions on
ordinances
the
are here
hill.
at City Hall, if you wanna look
Yeah.
at our city code.
Paisley
so every
Creek, I
ordinance
think.
gets codified. So you go to.
No, I
the city
remember
website,
I
that.
was
look
for
at
the
municipal code,
second
and you can
portion
figure
of
out-
it.
Okay,
Not
if
the
you're looking
first
for-
Huge problem with the sidewalks is all I remember up there.
I just worked 3
Oh,
times.
that was tough.
You can
But
always
you
email,
were here
I
when
can
Schumacher
scan,
was
or
here.
I
Yeah,
have made
yeah.
a digital copy already.
He was also the attorney.
Make it easy, she said, I know, it's 'cause
He was
it's
the
big.
judge.
The judge, we had,
Pass the word
sit right where you sit.
We didn't deal with this
Long
stuff.
time ago.
Major
Long time.
Okay, if there's no other comments or anything, we're gonna shut this down. You can turn her off.